Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Before and Afterthought episode over this past week with your host, truly as always, Queen Krazy K. Now, as I'm welcoming everyone, the ladies, gentlemen, world, universe, space aliens, animals, creatures, anything that you can think of with this, new alien show I've been watching. Conspiracy found in outer space. Really interesting to watch that show if you're into creatures and scary stuff as myself. I know you guys seen my past Halloween pictures and videos. Halloween all year around for me, as that is one of my favorite holidays. So with that being said, and of course people as myself who are all human being, ladies and gentlemen, as I always open up a welcoming introduction when I open and do these videos and podcasts and prediction. With that being said, as you know, you're not going to see my face in this video or pictures and videos like we do on the other ones, but you will hear my voice for singles before and afterthought podcast. Everything you need to know, want to know, and more, which will cover over this past week. Money in the Bank reflection is what this podcast is, and that's what I mean by a single podcast. You see me do single podcast is double, triple threat, fatal four-way, even five-way, and covering everything you need to know, want to know, and more. This one is a podcast over the past week, so it is a single podcast before and afterthought covering this past weekend, Money in the Bank. Now, many of you already seen on my page for the new subscribers, story for returning subscribers, my Money in the Bank and Raw, including last night's Monday Night Raw, and the Raw before that and SmackDown Money in the Bank predictions for new and just returning subscribers on the page and story for available for you guys to check it out, as I said I would do. Plus, many of you who already been watching, liking, following, subscribing on Instagram, YouTube, add me on Snapchat, follow me on TikTok, already know the deal by now, as I already have the conversation going. Whether you like the photo or the comic or the picture and you're involved in the conversation, I add your name as a special shout out in my Raw comic videos and my SmackDown result videos, which is also available on the page and story, and on Comments with Queen KZK. It's available on there, as well as the Money in the Bank pay-per-view playlist. If you guys want to watch my Money in the Bank results, SmackDown results, Raw results, you can check it out. My Comments with Queen KZK playlist. You can check on the page and story if you want to hear the Raw and SmackDown, which is actually a half an hour prediction and about 10 minutes for the Raw one this past Monday Night Raw. And Money in the Bank gave updations on all the pay-per-views, as far as, like, for example, we just got off of Money in the Bank in Los Angeles, and now we're headed towards the King and Queen of the Ring at Night of Champions pay-per-view. We also have August SummerSlam, Cardi B hosting 2 nights for the first time in New Jersey. SummerSlam, the biggest pay-per-view. They'll probably be a hell of a lot better and bigger than it was this past WrestleMania. And as far as also, we got the King and Queen of the Ring tournament coming. We also got Clash of Paris. We also have in Perth, Australia, will be Raw, SmackDown, Saturday main event, and Crown Jewel. We'll have Survivor Series in San Diego. And we also have the All-Women's Revolution that will take place. Big step for the women's division in history and the makings of matches for women and the WWE. So, by last time when I gave the updations, I was talking about, I liked how I went to Chicago and seen CM Punk. I liked how I went in my hometown on Monday Night Raw and got to see our Intercontinental Women's Champion, the man, Becky Lynch. I got to talk about traveling the different places around the world because it was related to these pay-per-views that are passing. You got so many different places, so many different things happening, going on, just with the blink in the eye, you will forget. And as this is a singles before and afterthought podcast, it will obviously be on the before and afterthought podcast playlist along with the other podcasts, but this is also slash commentary / Monday Night Raw, reflecting on last night's Monday Night Raw. That will be available commentary / reaction Krazy K playlist, because that's what this is. And also, when I'm done with this video, it'll be added on Before and After podcast, because this is also reflecting on Money in the Bank for the week, but also commentary / reaction on last night's Monday Night Raw. What I think, everything you need to know, want to know more as well, just so you're aware of what's happening and what's going on. You can check it on the page for new subscribers. You can check it on the story playlist for returning subscribers, and you can also check it on podcast, because it is a single podcast. Over the past week, we are doing it on time and up to date, reflecting on Money in the Bank, along with the predictions, commentaries, all that, and SmackDown and Raw on the page and story for new returning subscribers, and the comments with Krazy K, and commentary / reaction of WWE with Krazy K, reflecting on podcasts, the reaction of Monday Night Raw from last night. All haywire in Phoenix, Arizona. I was talking about, I liked how I was visiting Chicago, chatting with the man in his hometown, CM Punk, as a few weeks ago that, wrestling was there. I was talking about that, how I got to enjoy that within Raw and SmackDown being there. And also, I talked about in my hometown, the man, Becky Lynch, right in Omaha. Talk about the history of the worlds and updation of the pay-per-views. I had to talk about my self-experience traveling the world and between Raw and SmackDown as well. And then when Phoenix, Arizona went haywire, I loved when I went there. I loved enjoying the palm trees at nighttime, seeing the stars, beautiful. Get my tan on in the desert, swimming. Nice place. Monday Night Raw was epic and all haywire. So big last night that I even got the predictions already ready for next Monday Night Raw, including the commentary and results that will follow up on as we're headed towards Night of Champions with Queen and King of the Ring tournaments right now as we speak. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Of course, Kansas City, seeing the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes. Since he came back in the AEW, I got to see him there. Now he's back Saturday main event. Made his appearance officially, the new Superman of the company on SmackDown. I also discussed that. In Wichita, Kansas, had a conversation with Kofi Kingston, one half of our Raw Tag Team Champions. You got Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, one of the greatest tag teams of all time in the tag team division. Love tag teams. Anything can happen. Never say never that anything can happen in the WWE. Plus, the New Day has brought the tag teams division on notice as the Raw Tag Team Champions. They are one of the greatest tag team in history. Reason why people love tag teams. Reason why we got the Tag Team Champions belt. The reason why we keep watching and keep coming back. You get some quickness in there that makes you say, holy shit. You get some high flying in there that jumps out of your seat. You get some technicians and ability, whether it's a regular tag team, a triple threat, a fatal four-way, that you don't know what's going to happen. Can't take a blink or you're going to miss what's happening. And the New Day, for a very long time, has been a part of one of the greatest tag team of all time, and the WWE and our Raw Tag Team Champions, making that known, very clear, ready for anybody and anything to remain World Raw Tag Team Champions, that they are here to stay. And the WWE exclusive as far as that goes. We're talking about Raw. We had to bring up the Raw Tag Team Champions. We want to talk about these updations. You want to talk about opening up this podcast, opening up availability on the commentary action. You want to talk about making history at Money in the Bank. Had to talk about the making history and the traveling of the rest of the pay-per-views this year, as well as myself traveling. You want to talk about last night's Monday Night Raw. You have to talk about the Tag Team Champions. You have to bring up why the New Day is one of the greatest Tag Team Champions of all time. They have showed up, they have showed out, they have won WWE Tag Team titles, Raw, SmackDown, and World Raw Tag Team Champions right now as we speak. There have been ladder matches, there have been dominating at WrestleMania matches, they have brought the Munoz with t-shirts to joy to the W Universe with Biggie Langston as we saw him on the kickoff of Money in the Bank. They have brought the people in to the tag team wrestling world, why we want to watch the high flying, why we're even interested, and the tag team division just keeps getting better and better, whether tag teams are forming or departing. You want to talk about great tag team champs? You have to talk about the world tag team champs. It doesn't matter if you don't like the attitude. You can't deny that the New Day is one of the greatest of all time in our world tag team championships. No matter who they go against, the New Day is ready for anybody and anything that steps in that ring or that throws it at them. Looks like the Judgment Day is looking forward to that, so the New Day looking forward to remain tag team champs over Finn Balor and JD that look forward to capture the tag team titles to the Judgment Day, a dominate team on Raw, as the New Day, a dominate tag team, looks forward to remain the tag team titles as such. And of course, you have to bring up the War Raiders to take back their titles, what happened at WrestleMania once and for all as well. So, with that being said, with that being on notice, that's my saying, that's my thoughts on that. And if you want to talk about tag teams forming and tag teams departing and the tag teams in general, how about the tag team of our former World Heavyweight Champion, main event, Jey Uso, One War, 4-11, 15 years. 15 years dominating the tag team division for Raw Tag Team Champions, SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Both brands, Raw and SmackDown, held at the same time on the shoulders, and WWE tag teams in general, who I think is the greatest of all time. The Usos is the greatest tag team champs of all time, holding Raw and SmackDown. Whether it was departing, whether it was WWE, whether it was at the same time, they who also been in ladder matches, bringing the high fly in the tag team. I think the Usos, after 15 years, have been the greatest tag team that we ever had in the WWE, and then the New Day would take second place, who has many experiences and matches with the Usos and our World Tag Team Champions on Raw as I speak. But like I said, Finn Balor and JD, looking forward to take those titles. We'll see what happens on Raw. But we have to talk about the main event, Jey Uso, our former World Tag Team Champions, forming up with the Superman, the new Superman, the company, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, forming their tag team this past weekend, this year's past Money in the Bank. Not only did the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, show why he is the new Superman of this company by picking up the victory pacifically in this tag team match and getting some redemption what happened at WrestleMania by winning a match over John Cena pacifically as the new Superman of the company. A Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, future legendary, greatest of all time, 17-time champ, John Cena. You can tell the look on his face was shock and disbelief. You may be the greatest of all time, like I've been saying for years. Sitting on top of the mountain as 17-time champ, has nothing to prove, has done it all. John Cena, the reason why he's my favorite. Still to this day, childhood memory, childhood hero, and still gonna be as such. But the new Superman of the company, while you're exiting, and that's gonna hold it down, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, picking up that victory at Money in the Bank, shows you, hey, I could do the same thing you can do. Interact with the crowd. Be good to them. Make people believe in their dreams, as his dreams came true. Not let any of the haters and the haters and the doubters get in his ring, win championships, show up and show out, even when it matters the most, and especially when it matters the most, because that's what's going to be remembered. That's what's going to be in history. But that's what everybody's looking at. The American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, showed that, winning a match over John Cena in the tag team match at Money in the Bank as a new Superman, holding this company down. And John Cena knew that. John Cena seen that, and that's why the look on his face was like, oh, holy hell, what just happened? Along with that saying, our world champion, Jey Uso, showed why he is a former world champion. And everybody eats on Monday Night Raw with Jey Uso respecting that he's here as an individual and a WWE superstar as himself, finishing that Saturday main event match over Logan Paul, along with the new Superman Cody Rhodes. What happened at WrestleMania, getting some redemption at least right now. In the meantime, for what happened at WrestleMania over John Cena. Logan Paul is signing some prime bottles for the WWE Universe, proving why he's a superstar here to stay on Raw as well. With that being said, we saw Jey Uso with an emotional speech at the Raw and Out Fair. We got a new world champion, Gunther. Now, Gunther can finally be happy because he's got a championship belt in his possession again. Finally feels like he's on top because he backed up what he said. Now I think Gunther, as our world champion, can be happy, bittersweet, as world champion going on now 5 years. He was 4 years between Intercontinental Champion, World Champion, since he came in the WWE. Didn't like to swallow that he wasn't champion, especially at WrestleMania and tapping out, getting embarrassed. Now he gets to be world champion and be on top. Might put a smile and a relaxation on the back of Gunther as our new world heavyweight champion. But no matter what he says or does from the point beyond, I think he should respect Jey Uso as a former world champion that showed after 15 years his dream can show him too at an individual superstar and be respected as such. And that's why he's former world champion and held it proud. I think he should respect Jey, as you saw his emotional speech at the Raw went off there. Champ or no champ, the W Universe on Monday Night Raw, like say ye, what main event Jey Uso at the Raw went off there, and that's the way it's going to be, along with our world champion Gunther. I think you need to put some respect on Jey's name, because he held that proud and held it up, and he followed through what he said he was going to do as well. And speaking of respect, speaking of champions, our 17-time champ, John Cena. My childhood memory, my childhood heroes. Been watching him, he got all the memories, all those matches, know everything in and out. The reason why I started watching wrestling, want to get into the wrestling business, is still who I still love and respect. Our 17-time champ, the greatest of all time, like I've been telling y'all for over 20 years. John Cena, officially wearing that purple, giving you some 2011 deja vu. Talking about then, now, forever and together. How about then, purple John Cena 2011, back at the Royal Rumble, to now, purple John Cena 2025, winning purple all over again merchandise. To together, interacting with the W Universe, whether it's a heel turn or a babyface, and forever. That's what makes memories, that's what makes history, and that's what makes legends with champions like John Cena, that you can't deny, the greatest of all time, 17-time champ, sitting on top of the mountain, did exactly what he said he was going to do. Talk about deja vu, never say never, in the WWE. John Cena versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight 17-time champion. Now going for the WWE Undisputed Championship belt at Night of Champions. Bringing the 2011 to 2025. Never say never in the WWE. We're getting some deja vu 2011 to 2025 with the championship belt between CM Punk and John Cena one last time at Night of Champions. Talk about that history making. Talk about never say never. I think that should be the main event, because that's the match that everybody wants to see as far as that goes, as well as they want to see the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, who was doing an interview on the American Bus with Damian Priest as a rising, a dominator, a former tag team champ himself. While I was talking about history, former champion, United States champ, Damian Priest on SmackDown, did an exclusive bus interview with him, the new Superman, the company, to capture that championship on SmackDown once and for all after his match with CM Punk. who's had so many matches with John Cena, who's had so many history at John Cena. It was CM Punk who was the heel turn, and John Cena who was the hero. Now, the tables have turned. CM Punk's the hero. John Cena's the heel turn. Talk about deja vu 2025, and we're feeling like we're in 2011 with that profile merchandise John Cena had in this championship belt on the line. We all know when CM Punk took that championship belt with him and took the company with him, as he said he was going to do. Talk about put the WWE in jeopardy, taking the title and ruin wrestling, which is what John Cena is saying right now. His headstrong right now. And now, you got CM Punk who's trying to save it, who's trying to bring it back. Talk about other heel, in my shoes. Now we're kind of getting that reverse. Now we're kind of getting that deja vu right now. So I can't wait to see John Cena, the greatest of all time, 17-time champ. I've been saying that for 20 years, and now it's official. Bringing that 2011, just wearing that purple merchandise just gave me deja vu right there. All those matches with him and CM Punk and the Royal Rumble match and the Nexus and the Brawl fights and the championship belts, and after CM Punk was Mr. Money in the Bank, took the title with him, after they had so many matches, him and the Nexus attacking Randy Orton getting some revenge on the Nexus, John Cena after the Nexus tore the whole entire arena apart, Cena taking him out with a surprise return, one by one, not being fired, but returning to the company, Randy Orton helping him in a 10 or 2-on-5 situation. And then CM Punk being besides one other man, making history, 2-time Mr. Money in the Banker, cashed it in successfully and took the WWE Championship belt in the company with him, blowing a kiss to the chairman like he said he was going to do. Talk about the history of CM Punk for years and backing up what he says when he gets on that microphone. And now here to go for that title at Night of Champions against John Cena to save wrestling, to save the championship belt, to save the company. And that's definitely got to be a main event. So I can't wait to watch and see what happens right there between CM Punk and John Cena for the championship at Night of Champions. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be something that makes you jump out of your feet. And it's definitely a main event match. It's definitely a match to watch. And definitely a match you don't want to miss. Match you want to see. Talk about history. Talk about Money in the Bank. Talk about Monday Night Raw. Another man that I was talking about. The only other man besides CM Punk that's made history being a 2-time and current 2025 Mr. Money in the Bank. Like I said, Seth freaking Rollins. Could put some more deja vu since WrestleMania, beating both Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, cashing in the Money in the Bank, successfully becoming the WWE Champion, successfully could do that all over again with this John Cena and CM Punk match and become the WWE Champion against both John Cena and CM Punk at the same time, to show why Seth Rollins is one of the uprising new generation superstars to hold this company down that's been here a time or two for years as well. Could run it down and hold the company together like he's been doing as one of the greatest champions of all time as well. How about that weather storming? Yes, Seth Rollins having a little fun on the weather show. Seth friggin' Rollins brings in the storm on that weather show as he is a 2-time Mr. Money in the Banker. And talk about deja vu. He could crash it in. Crash in, cash in, crash out, become a champion again against both John Cena and CM Punk in this championship match. You had great superstars in that matchup. You had Seth Rollins, like I said, him and CM Punk being the only man to hold Mr. Money in the Bank twice. Talk about that history. Talk about that career. Future Hall of Famers and legends. To now generation to already the Hall of Famers and legends. Like Rey Mysterio, a Hall of Famer, a legendary, a king, the king of Lucha Underground. Opening it up with this past collide, which was all about high-flying appearance and domination. You got Stephanie Vaquera picking up a victory. You got El Grande Americano picking up the victory in a singles action, in a match. And our Hall of Famer legendary Rey Mysterio, what better than him, the king of Lucha, to open up the collide that was excellent. And Dominic Mysterio proving all the haters and the critics wrong, putting his title on the line and remaining as Intercontinental Champion as such, to show you he's more than just staying in the background playing video games. So you can put some respect on his name now. As well as the only woman to hold it 4 times as Tag Team Women's Champion, Liv Morgan. That was at ringside. Been world champion mostly all year. Mostly all last year, world champion. Crown Jewel, history maker on champion. 4 tag team champion. The only one to hold it 4 times in the women's division. Liv Morgan, to put some history and respect on her name, showing up, sticking it on that microphone to the W Universe, what we call her, Mona Liv, as our 4 tag team women's champion, makes history by attacking the return of a Hall of Famer, legendary Nikki Bella, who built this women's division, the reason why the women's tag team titles exist, the reason why they're called superstars and not divas, the reason why they have a women's world championship belt and not a deep butterfly championship belt, the star Total Divas, Total Bellas, the reason why people wanted to watch the women's division in the wrestling company. The women that made those tag team titles exist by building the women's revolution as once upon a time one of the greatest divas champion and now women's champion of all time, as well as the former world champion Liv Morgan brought up the reason why the all women's revolution is happening and the pay-per-view is going on. Total Divas, Total Bellas starring it, could do it all, shows up on Monday Night Raw in their hometown, while those tag team titles around Liv's waist exist. So now Liv Morgan looks forward to making more history, getting in the ring, attacking Nikki Bella. You can imagine Nikki Bella is going to challenge Liv Morgan to a singles action maybe next month at the All Women's Revolution. Show why she's still the Hall of Famer that built the Women's Revolution as the longest Divas champion once upon a time, as well as you're so proud of being former Women's World Champion to the new generation. You're so proud of being 4 tag team Women's Champion. She's on Total Divas, Total Bellas, comes back, shows up, and shows out the reason why they exist. And then let them know beat you in their match after the tag match, or just, have a singles action competition. You got a Hall of Famer like Nikki Bella and a history maker like Liv Morgan. That'll be a banger match, and the All Women's Revolution pay-per-view is the best spot to do it. So we'll see if that happens. Show up and show out. Speaking of returns, women's division, history. How about another woman in the women's division who's made history? The last woman to hold 2 titles at the same time. Talk about that for your history. A dominator woman that was once upon a time undefeated streak. You want to talk about history? How about the history of this woman being undefeated for 2 years? You want to talk about new generation and matchmaker? How about this woman being the only woman in WWE to hold 2 titles at the same time? How about, you want to talk about returns to Monday Night Raw? How about the return of Asuka next week on Monday Night Raw that I was talking about a couple weeks ago, who is also a former Miss Money in the Banker. If you want to talk about making history and Money in the Banks, how about that? Asuka being a former Miss Money in the Banker, returning next week on Monday Night Raw. Can't wait to hear what she has to say or see what she's going to do. She has to step up, put some strikes on anybody that wants to get in that ring. That's what I got to say about that. As far as nobody is ready for the Empress of Asuka returning next week on Monday Night Raw, putting all the women on notice. As well as, the history making in the women's division. Talk about Miss Money in the Bank, Mr. Money in the Bank in the history. How about the history of the Miss Money in the Banks, who's all cashed in successfully all 8 times and successfully became champions. People like Asuka, who will be returning next week on Monday Night Raw, former Miss Money in the Banker, and successfully cashing in to be a WWE champion. How about Nikki H. Cross, who was once upon a time tag team women's champion with Alexa Bliss, a former Miss Money in the Banker that was in this year's Miss Money in the Bank opportunity, who also successfully became champion. And Carmella, the first woman to become Miss Money in the Bank. And now this year, putting everyone else, our women's world champion, on Monday Night Raw, Io Sky, former champ, former Miss Money in the Bank, and now our current Raw Women's Champion. Our current SmackDown Women's Champion, Tiffany Stratton, being our last Miss Money in the Bank. Before now, our SmackDown Women's Champion is Tiffy time on SmackDown. And then that brings Liv Morgan, a former Miss Money in the Banker, once again building and making history for like 10 years now in the WWE. To now another woman who returned on Monday Night Raw, here to stay, Bayley, a former Miss Money in the Banker, and cashing in successfully for the 8th time in the women's division. The 8th time a woman has won the ladder match and successfully cashed in to be champion, which is every single Money in the Banker. Every single Miss Money in the Banker has successfully cashed it in, which is a total of 8, and been champion. Now this year, who's been here for 12 years, SmackDown Women's Champion 2-time, TNA Knockout Champion 2-time, been in all the Royal Rumble matches. Unique ways to stay in the Royal Rumble matches, actually. But who's also dominant in the Elimination Chamber, who's also been Tag Team Women's Champion, who's also made history, and who made history again, being the first African-American woman to be a Miss Conscious WWE Miss Money in the Bank, Naomi. Very emotional, because she knows she made history after her Money in the Bank win, and at the same time keeping that conscious energy that she has all the power in the world to make you sweat for as long as she wants, whether it's Io Sky, the Raw Women's Champion, whether it's our SmackDown Women's Champion Tiffany. The women's locker room has a year and is on sweat and is on notice. They're going to be sweating out. They're going to be looking over their shoulder right and left. Naomi has that conscience, has that Miss Money in the Banker. She has all the power in the world. Whether you like it or not, she became Miss Money in the Bank. And let's not forget, all the former Miss Money in the Bankers was successfully a champion. So that could be Naomi. So you're damn right the women's division is looking over their shoulder at our Miss Money in the Banker, Naomi, that could come in and cash in at any time, any place, anywhere. And another woman, Stephanie Vaquera, picked up the win over Clinch, right? Picked up that singles action victory, was in this year in her ladder match in the Miss Money in the Bank dominating. Currently a women's superstar now, a part of Monday Night Raw, and held 2 championship belts, NXT and North American champion, as well as the Empress Tamara Asuka, would be turning the last one in WWE to hold 2 titles. at the same time, along with Roxanne Perez, 21 years old, NXT champion, worked with the Hall of Famer, the legendary, worked on train with Booker T. He's been into an Iron Man match. She has been an Iron Man or Iron Woman of one of the Royal Rumbles. Out of the 2 Royal Rumbles she's already been in. She's already been in her Elimination Chamber match. She's already been in the ring to tag team champs with Julia, who was also in that match, and a current active superstar on Friday Night SmackDown, who was also in that Miss Money in the Bank match. And now Roxanne of Venice picks up the victory for a Queen of the Ring opportunity tournament built in. Past step 1. Now that she's done that, now that Roxanne continues to be this uprising star on Raw as a Queen in the Ring winner and opportunity, she also has possibly, as she worked as a very good tag team with Liv Morgan, who congratulated her when that match was over and blamed Raquel for the last match, that, Liv Morgan congratulated Roxanne being Queen of the Ring, opportunity advancing. And if it wasn't for Raquel, she wouldn't have won. So maybe instead of Raquel, who was going to, tell Roxanne to kick rocks when she tried to join the Judgment Day, actually helped Roxanne advance the Queen of the Ring opportunity. When Liv Morgan just told her to stay out of her way, they actually worked as a tag team, that Queen of the Ring, and she congratulated her when it was over. So possibly, not only does Roxanne have an opportunity to be Queen of the Ring, Liv Morgan has an opportunity to go against a Hall of Famer at the all-women's pay-per-view Revolution, like Nikki Bella, who was one of the first women to build up when things started actually changing. Not just saying it for the women's division. And Raquel, tag team women's champion in the women's division. Showing up and showing out, making history herself. But you can imagine another woman that's made history, been world champion twice, Raw Women's Champion, SmackDown Women's Champion, won in her hometown at Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, led to victory in the War Survivor Series game, who has dominated every single woman through Raw, through SmackDown, dominated, showing why Mommy is always on top, dominated in her first Money in the Bank and ever in her whole entire career ladder match, who also in the Queen of the Ring tournament show why it's Monday Night Mommy, putting the hurt on her opponents, putting the dominations on them. Rhea Bloody Ripley. That brings us to the conclusion that she possibly could be coming after Raquel. As, Roxanne is focused on who's she going to be versing for the Queen of the Ring tournament and possibly being in the Judgment Day. You can imagine Liv Morgan's going to be focused on this women's pay-per-view Revolution against Nikki Bella, a Hall of Famer who's got a bone to pick with her after that attack. That leaves Raquel to focus on Rhea Ripley, who's not going to be happy about her getting involved in that Queen of the Ring match. Then that leaves Finn Balor and JD to go after the tag team titles against, who's ready, who made that message very clear, our Raw Tag Team Champions, The New Day. Then that leaves our Intercontinental Champion successfully cashing, puts it on the line and walks out as Intercontinental Champion, Dominic Mysterio, to put some respect on his name, that you can't talk anymore behind his back, because he went out there and put it on the line himself and remained as such. So you can't say that he's hiding in the back anymore, just playing video games. That he's more than just that. He's a competitor and a superstar and wants to be seen and respected as such. And that's Dirty Dom, or Dominic Mysterio. Second generation, third generation, you name it. You got the greats like Eddie Guerrero. You got the greats like Rey Mysterio, who's also Hall of Famer and legendary. Now Dominic Mysterio is the Intercontinental Champion. You also have Nolan that dominant as well. who was also in that collusion. He was also in that peer domination. Talk about decline for the lucha, the business and division. And speaking of that, speaking of the division, speaking of the lucha, speaking of the Hall of Fame and the legendary, how about another dominator on Monday Night Raw? Uprising superstar on Monday Night Raw. One of the kings besides Rey Mysterio of the underground lucha, Penta, who was involved in the King of the Ring opportunity and Mr. Money in the Bank ladder match, as well as Andrade, who's currently active superstar on SmackDown, Americano, who, well, won the Speed Championship belt, but can't win as Chad Gable and still conspiracy, whether it's Chad or Americano. I guess I'll leave it unofficial, even though we really know who it is, based on what he says and what he does, along with Solo Sikoa, who's involved in a part of the bloodline, who's the best and most dominated history, legends, Hall of Famers, champions, tag team champs, you name it all, a part of the family called the Bloodline, a part of the most dominated family, the Bloodline, in WWE. Solo Sikoa holding the Bloodline on Friday Night SmackDown currently in the ladder match. He was more of like comedy, funny, and enjoy the watch. It was funny and also excited to see him at the same time. You know, you got to have fun at the same time as you got to go in a domination. And that's what Solo Sikoa played that part very well for that. So that was fun to watch that and see that happen. And also Jacob Fatu, our United States champion, Samoan Werewolf, who already won once, but twice and multiple times, sticking up for himself, attacking and costing opportunity for Solo as he's United States champion and he wants to do it on his own. And he's letting that know very clear against Solo Sikoa, as he did at as he did at Money in the Bank to cost him to be Mr. Money in the Bank. As well as being cost an opportunity by Braun Baker, who returned the favor, costing Braun Baker a King of the Ring opportunity tournament. Which will lead us to how Sami Zayn, showing that heart could be just as strong and that he's still here, as he won an opportunity for King of the Ring this last Monday Night Raw. The heart is just as important and strong. Sami Zayn brought that fire in, as he has a King of the Ring opportunity. You can imagine when LA Knight has his King of the Ring opportunity on SmackDown, that Braun Baker is going to return the cost of the favor of the opportunity from him. He's going to let that dog out and let it know and show up and show out. But you can imagine maybe the Bloodline will get involved, because the Final Destination, showed up on SmackDown. The Bloodline started getting some payback at Money in the Bank. And now, if Braun Baker costs the opportunity of LA Knight for the King of the Ring tournament, much like he did for his King of the Ring tournament for what happened at Money in the Bank, you can imagine maybe the Bloodline and Big Bryce and Seth Rollins, the Final Destination, we'll see them go at it possibly towards a Survivor Series led-up match. So I would like to see that happen. That'll be cool to see who the dominant team is, whether it's Raw or SmackDown. I've been calling them the Final Destination. That's Bryson Reed, Braun Baker, and Seth Rollins, because they don't really have a team name yet. So with the Hall of Famer, who's great at what he does as a manager, Hall of Famer, Paul Heyman, speaks on that microphone. He nails it, hits it right on the nail, hits it right what he's saying, and does exactly what he said he was going to do. And the person that he's working with accomplishes exactly what he said was going to happen. So, along with another man like the phenomenal AJ Styles, backing up what he says is going to happen when it happens, defeating Chad Gaberson and letting him know that was going to happen, and it did, making his statement loud and clear this past Monday Night Raw, as well as the returning of Bayley making her statement clear. Back on Monday Night Raw, gets a little bit of payback and revenge after getting championships and matches cost by our new Intercontinental Women's Champion, Becky Lynch, who also, you can say, well, she costed the match an opportunity, but how many times has Bayley, when she was with Damage Control, cost matches for Becky Lynch, throwing her through an announcement table, costing her championships opportunity, clear up the stairs and backstage where the merchandise is, constantly taunting Becky Lynch, calling out Becky Lynch, attacking Becky Lynch, costing her matches and championships opportunity, to the point where Becky Lynch had a brawl fight them in the merchandise area with a 3-on-1, and the whole entire, and only have the WWE Universe's voice to keep her strong and keep her head up and fight them off 3-on-1 with Damage Control to beat Bayley at her own game and cost her a match to see how she likes it in championships now that she has to fight her 1-on-1 and doesn't have a team. How many times has Bayley done the same thing to Becky Lynch, was just giving her a taste of her own medicine? And well, Bayley didn't like the heat, felt, well, I'm going to return. I've been working out and training, and came back on Monday Night Raw to make a statement to the man, Becky Lynch, as our Intercontinental Women's Champion, that, like I said, you never can doubt Becky Lynch. You say, well, Lara Vaquera has beaten Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship belt, that she's may have lost her juice, lost her energy. She's full of energy. She's full of juice. She is the GOAT of the women's division because Becky Lynch has beaten the Trailblazer, Hall of Famer, legendary Trish Stratus in a steel cage match to be the GOAT of the women's division. She has been Tag Team Women's Champion, who broke the record to be called women for the history of women's division. Lita as Tag Team Champion. She has been the horsewoman to build NXT with all these new superstars coming left and right through Raw and SmackDown. Built that on her shoulder and became NXT Champion. When they say she hasn't done this, now she has. Never say never, and never doubt the man Becky Lynch pulled up in energy and juice, became the Intercontinental Women's Champion. That you said, well, she's never done that. You can never say never in the WWE, because now she is Intercontinental Women's Champion. Make that clear on Monday Night Raw. And she has defeated and beaten Lara Vaquera for the Intercontinental Champion at Money in the Bank, as well as Lara Vaquera did at Backlash. And when Becky made her statement when the match was over, Lara Vaquera did the exact same thing. She brought that fire in her, and she brought that out of her. She did the exact same thing that the old Lara Vaquera wouldn't have done. And Becky Lynch brought that out of her. That is why Becky Lynch is so good at what she does in her Intercontinental Women's Champion. And you're going to see her as our Intercontinental Champion because that's what she is. And she is the GOAT of the women's division. The man, Becky Lynch, to put some respect on her name, whether you like it or not. Lara Vaquera looking a little bit confused as the man, Becky Lynch, Intercontinental Women's Champion, is ready for anything that she was putting at her. That Becky Lynch, she's ready for it. Lara Vaquera's talked to the microphone. Becky stood up for herself. Lara's Intercontinental Champion. Now Becky is going back and forth between, the Backlash situation and then Lara doing the same thing at Mr. Money in the Bank. I think that Becky Lynch, one more time, should remain Intercontinental Champion over Lara to show her that she can do it and it wasn't a fluke. And that'll make up for the NXT Championship belt a few years ago that happened. And including the return, who's worked out, who's trained, who's also a former Grand Slam champion, first ever in history, Tag Team Women's Champion, who will be on Monday Night Raw with an official announcement because she's already made her return. Now she'll be on Monday Night Raw, probably speak about it. You can imagine Becky Lynch, our Intercontinental Champion, is going to get some revenge on Bayley after that last week on Raw, and possibly remain Intercontinental Champion over Lara, who wasn't done with her quite yet. That I think Becky needs to be Intercontinental Champion over Lara Vaquera to finish that, to get that off of her chest, to get that, prove the haters wrong, the doubters wrong once again, that the man Becky Lynch can beat Lara and remain Intercontinental Champion. I think she needs to do that one last time, maybe at Clash of Paris, to get that off of her chest. And that'll make up, from everybody what they're saying now. And then focus on Bayley Obviously, she's going to be looking forward to attack her because she doesn't want to go down like that. And, well, we got a Bayley and Becky Lynch Intercontinental Women's Championship on the line. Horsewoman that built NXT, appear, domination, going on possibly at SummerSlam. Maybe. Guess we'll find out. And talk about believing in the heart and the fight of another superstar. R-Truth returning on Monday Night Raw. The W Universe, we wanted R-Truth. We chanted R-Truth. We respect him. We love him as a superstar. Not just as a comedian to make us laugh, but also as a WWE superstar. Putting respect on his name. Chanted from him. And was not going to be shut up. W Universe heard us. Gave us R-Truth officially on Monday Night Raw. And now he sees and sets himself free as his true self. And gonna be respected as such. So with that being said, I'm happy for R-Truth. I'm glad to see what he's gonna pull next. I'm happy that he's coming as Ron Hill. That's his real name now. And I'm happy to see now, instead of R-Truth, with Ron Hill cutting his hair, has to say and what he's gonna do next and what's on his mind next. That's what I'm happy and excited to see next, because now we can see the real him, we can see the true him, we can see what he really thinks and how he really feels. Gonna put some respect on his name and not use him as some kind of mascot. So I think that's what he's doing, and I would like to see, this past week we had, the Monday Night Raw recap, right? But next Raw recap, after the Raw predictions, I think we're in for a treat. Raw content, when I put my Raw comics on there, I want to see Ron Helix on to what he has to say on the Raw recap. As I do my commentary, reaction, and podcast, I'm ready to hear what he has to say officially. Week after that, I think Nikki Bella should be on the following Raw recap with the All Women's Revolution and pay-per-view. How can she not return and be on that? The following week, Ox is returning next week on Raw, the Empress tomorrow. And of course, the return of Bayley towards, Clash of Paris, Night of Champions coming up. SummerSlam coming up. I think we're in for about a month. We should have Bayley on the Raw recap as she's returning against Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship belt. We should have R-Truth, that's Ron Felix as himself, being himself and what that means. On Monday Night Raw, his return. Nikki Bella for the All Women's Revolution. We already had exclusive interviews where our tag team champs live. We already had the Intercontinental champions like Lara Vaquera and Becky Lynch, so now Bayley will be the next one to be on Raw with our predictions, comment result, and, like I said, what that means. As far as Nikki Bella's Women's Revolution and Ron Killick as a stealth, and then the Empress tomorrow, Ox return to Raw. I think we're in for a whole month of Raw recaps and predictions and results towards not only United Champions, but then falling right in to Clash of Paris too. Before we know it, in the blink of an eye, right after United Champions, we're going to be stepping into the biggest pay-per-view of all summer, SummerSlam. Let alone Clash of Paris following up with some Saturday main events or Raw and SmackDown of a conclusion to it. So, I'm ready for it. I'm prepared for it. I'm pumped up for it. That's my info. That's my information. That's my opinion. That's the facts as well. Seek the truth and nothing but the truth and only the truth. Queen Krazy K, Before and Afterthought Podcasting. Yes, it'll be added to Before and Afterthought Podcast playlist along with the others. So be sure to watch, like, follow, subscribe, add me on Snapchat, follow me on TikTok so you can find out everything you need to know, want to know, talk about the traveling, the pay-per-views, updations, and the podcast reflecting on Money in the Bank, which also those predictions come to result out, including the post-show and updations, some family photo reunion you can check on Instagram. You can check out the gameplay matches with Money in the Bank I have available. You can check out the Mortal Kombat Rather Thought of that I have available. And after Raw and SmackDown went off air, predictions, commentary, result, you can check out the shout-outs that when you're involved in the conversation, whether you like it or watch or follow it. Thank you, and a shout out to y'all who already been watching, liking, and following, subscribing, and following along with the podcast, and thank you for going to and watching and listening. Well, listening to this podcast. And of course, commentary / reaction. It'll be added to there because that's what this is. Need to know, want to know, and more. In my opinions and thoughts. So, with all that being said, Queen KZK out. Peace.